Okay, let's dive into this. Picture a scene you've been in a million times, right? You're in a meeting, maybe a classroom, or just hanging out at a party. And there are always two kinds of people in the room. The ones doing all the talking, and the ones who just listen. Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on why those quiet ones might just be holding all the cards.
Yep, pretty much any room you walk into, you can boil the whole social dynamic down to these two roles. You've got the person who speaks, and you've got the person who observes. And you know what? Our brains are just wired to make instant judgments about both of them.
And this is exactly how we see it, isn't it? Our default setting. We see the person who's talking a lot and we think, okay, leader, confident, in control. They're the ones steering the ship. But then we look at the quiet observer and we kind of label them as, well, passive, maybe a little disengaged. It's like we've been taught our whole lives that volume equals value. But is that what's really going on?
Okay, this is where things get really interesting. We have to challenge that first impression. Because the story we tell ourselves about the quiet person in the room, it's often built on a complete and total myth. What I like to call the myth of shyness. It's the question everybody is thinking, but nobody ever really says out loud. We see that silence, and our minds just rush to fill in the blanks with our own stories. Are they intimidated? Do they just not have anything to say? Let's break down all the ways we usually get this wrong. And here they are, the usual suspects, right? We assume their silence has to be coming from a place of weakness, that they lack confidence or ideas, or maybe they're just bored. But these assumptions, they completely miss the point. They blind us to the incredible strength that's actually at play here.
So let's just flip this whole idea on its head. What if the truth behind silence isn't a weakness at all? What if it's the source of a really profound and honestly an often overlooked power, the power of observation?
And this right here, this is the core of it all. Their silence isn't an absence of thought, it's the presence of some really intense mental activity. While everyone else is busy talking, they're busy processing. It's not a bug in their system, it's a feature. You could even call it a superpower.
There's actually a term for this. It's called active observation. And that word active is so important here. This isn't just passively hearing sounds while you zone out. No way. This is a highly engaged, super complex form of information gathering. They are literally decoding the entire room on a level that most of us are completely missing.
So, what kind of data are they collecting? Well, it's so much more than just words. They're analyzing the speaker's tone of voice for any hint of doubt, or maybe overconfidence. They're catching those tiny little facial expressions that give away what someone's really feeling. And while the talker is just focused on what they're going to say next, the observer is deconstructing the actual logic of their argument, looking for holes. They're mapping out the room's politics in real time, who's on whose side. And maybe, most important of all, they hear what isn't being said. The hidden agendas, the topics everyone is avoiding, they are, for all intents and purposes, gathering intelligence.
And this brings us to a really crucial point. This isn't just some interesting psychological theory. This is a real strategic advantage, something you can spot in others and maybe even leverage yourself. Once you understand this, it totally changes how you see every single conversation.
Think of it like this, an economy of energy and information. The talker is spending a ton of energy. They're performing, persuading, speaking, they're transmitting data outwards. But while they're doing all that, they're actually gaining very little new information. The observer, they're doing the exact opposite. For a very low energy cost, they're getting the maximum possible information gain. It's an incredible cognitive efficiency. And it means that when they finally do decide to speak, their words carry so much more weight because they're based on a complete 360-degree view of the situation. It's the single best way to understand what's really going on.
So the big takeaway here is that we really need to reframe how we think about silence. It's not an empty space. It's a processing space, a space where incredible insight is being formed. So the next time you're in a room, don't just look for the loudest person. Look for the quietest, because they are probably the one who's seeing the whole board. And that leaves us with one final thought. What have you been missing because you were the one doing all the talking?